Here we are, all the parents. Okay, here we are, all the parents of the next generation. It's Megan Barella here, your positive parenting and happy home guide, talking about one of the most vitally important conversations that we can have as parents today. And this is on high stress parenting. So here's what we're gonna talk about today. We're going to talk about the way that I define high stress parenting from what I'm seeing in all of you and all the parents who I get to connect with, what some of the research is saying. We're going to talk about the top tools to support if you are parenting from a place of high stress. And I'll share a little bit of my story with high stress parenting and then how to get you support and how I can work with parents, everything from my free offerings to I have a $99 session, one-on-one session that you can dial into. I also have a 4-week parenting class series for $199, and then I have my more premium coaching experience, which is just under $5,000 for a 3-month intervention. So a little bit of everything to support you and your family. Okay, so let's dive in. What is high stress parenting? So the way that I look at it, high stress parenting is any time in parenting where the demands on you as a parent are greater than your incoming support. And that's why for today, for most parents, you would probably identify that. You have greater demands than you do incoming support. And that's why most of us are high stress parenting today. Occasionally, and I don't want to say if you're not in high stress that you can't work with me. That's not the case at all. If you're not in high stress parenting, then we really get to work on your the empowerment piece and developing leadership in your family and how to be in a place of ongoing growth alongside your children. But for a lot of the parents that I work with, you are in a place of high stress parenting simply because the demands on parenting are greater than your incoming support. But in addition to that, most families are experiencing financial and relationship stress, right? Then there's parents who have chronic health issues, are parenting with a disability, are parenting as a neurodiverse parent, are parenting neurodiverse kids in a neurotypical world. Parents who are childhood trauma survivors or childhood maltreatment survivors, parents who are parenting with CPTSD, parents who are here as a generational change maker, who are transforming negative intergenerational patterns that you inherited. That's very stressful work. And then there's the parents that I work with mostly, which are, again, parents of neurodiverse kids and parents going through divorce and separation. Okay, so we're all, most of us, parenting under high stress today because the demands are so great. Then there's those of us who have financial and relationship stress. And then there's the other of us who have different, unique, individual stressors. And then there's parents who are impacted by systemic inequities and injustices in our world, systemic racism, parents who are actively this threat of ICE in our communities, parents who are acutely impacted by white supremacy and the gross violations of human rights that are happening in this administration. Okay, so that kind of the landscape of high stress parenting. And so you might identify with some of those things, you might identify with all of those things. And so what I want to remember you, I do want to remember you. I want you to remember this. Stress is always the problem, not you and your children. You and your kids are not the problem. You and your kids are amazing people. You're inherently good people. And you experience whatever it is you're experiencing in this human reality. And stress and unmet basic needs are always the problem for parents today. There is nothing inherently wrong with you and your kids. It is the stress that is the problem. And very often it's this society that does not support families, a society that does not support human rights. That is the problem. And that's where solidarity is essential during these times, okay? So the antidote to stress is always going to be support. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about what's happening in the brain under stress. So what the research says is our brains don't know the difference between stress and fear. So when a lot of the stress response system that we study, if you know about Dr. Dan Siegel, flipped lid and brain of the palm of your hand, it goes like this, okay? We can look at our brain and the way that we respond to stress by a model of our brain in the palm of our hand. Here is the brainstem, right? It's this part of the brain, and it controls things we don't have to think about, like breathing, like heart rate, and the stress response system. So say if a bear, busted through my window and started attacking me, I would have 3 options. I might fight back. I might try and run away and hide. I might freeze up like a deer in the headlights. So when that stress response system is activated with the face of fear, our brain has very, very limited options on a primal level. Fight, fight, flee. Gosh, I can tell it's Monday morning. I haven't been talking a lot. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, okay? And it's important to know that stress response, that survival mechanism is held in the part of the brain that is on autopilot, right? Because we're wired to survive. And it's important that stress response system is on autopilot, just like our breathing and our heart rate. So moving up is the thumb, which is represented by the limbic system, the body, and then our emotions and memories. Emotions and memories. Now, moving up is the cortex. And right here, the prefrontal cortex. And this is the part of the brain that is responsible for our ability to be logical, to problem solve, and to regulate the emotions, the memories, and our body responses. So what happens is most of us are not living in a place where we're living close to wild animals and we have that threat to our safety. But we're living in some of the highest stress levels to be parents today, to be human, to be kids. And remember that our brains read stress and fear at the same time. So what happens? The demands on you are greater than your incoming support. You have financial and relationship stress. You have all the unique individual and family stressors in your family today and that you're carrying in your family line and that you're responsible for healing. That is a lot of stress. And then there's unique stressors that if some families are facing based on those systemic inequities in our society. And what happens? It's too much. We literally flip our lid. And when that usually happens, it's often our kids' behavior challenges that are breaking the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak. It's like, just listen to me so I don't have to yell at you because I'm already so stressed out. And so what exactly happens is, again, we flip our lid. The part of our brain that is logical, that can regulate our emotions, that can problem solve, that can be empathetic to others, it literally goes offline. And what's running the show is some form of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And in my programs, I really support people on where they go when they flip their lid, when they're under stress. And why is that important to know? Well, one, it's important to have that gentle awareness to always remember that it is not a character flaw when we're flipping our lid, when that stress response system is activated. It's a physiological response. It's a survival wiring that we all have. And we are flipping our lid because of the stress, not because we're bad parents, right? And so let's go in now to the top tools that I share. If you feel like, because here's what prompted this talk. With my one-on-one clients, I'm almost always working with the high stress of parenting today. I work with a lot of single moms. I work with parents going through divorce or separation. I work with parents of neurodiverse kids. I work with parents who are childhood trauma survivors, who are really called to be the generational change makers on their family line. And that is really, really stressful. Recently, I've been doing more in-person talks. So pre-pandemic, almost all I ever did was I taught community-based classes, and I was like a combination of a preschool teacher and a parent educator. And so I would host these, and some of you might know me from there, I would host these positive playtime programs that were often hosted by libraries. And I would come in and I would teach these parenting positive discipline principles with the children would be at our feet. And I was very grassroots, and I was at the ground level of what parents were experiencing, especially parents of young children. I could also be really tuned into what was the parent-child relationship, because I saw it in front of me and I got to really tune into what parents' strengths were, where their challenges were. And I got to really be tuned in with where kids are at today, because literally I would have a group of, 10 kids at my feet while I was teaching. And we would be working when, different challenges came up. We would be working with them in real time. So I was very in tune with the real life challenges of parents. Now I'm working mostly on Zoom. And I tend to work with parents who have access to a lot of parenting support. And I'm coming in on a high level to synchronize everything you already know and you're learning, and all the personal development you've been doing, everything, and apply it to parenting from a strength-based approach. So it's a very high level integration. Now, recently, I've been doing more parenting classes, and I've been out in the community, and this is parents who, this is the first time, I'm coming in and just doing an intro class. They haven't worked with me at all, and I haven't done that in a minute. A lot of my library classes and my school classes are virtual, which is different. So doing these in-person classes, I've been able to really tune in with all of you in this state of parenting. And I've got to say, I'm a little like, I'm concerned for us. I'm concerned for where we all are, because I am listening to all of you, and parents are really, really struggling today because of the stress, and especially with the financial stress and the demands of being a full-time working parent, having young children in childcare, coming home, having to parent at the end of the day, or if you are home more with your parents, just like with your kids, just the demands of what it means to be a parent, particularly of young children today. It is, because I'm going to talk about my own journey with high stress parenting in a little bit, but the stress that you all have, it's even more extreme than when I was parenting my son, who is 16. So I want to share some of the top tools. If you connect with that, if you're just like, parenting is too much today, I want to speak to that a little bit, okay? And I want to speak to one of the challenges is in the parenting information that's actually out there. It's putting more pressure on you all, because there is this pressure to co-regulate, to follow this positive, gentle, conscious parenting expert. And there is all this pressure to be positive with our kids, to be kind, to not parent with fear and the cruelty that many parents today grew up with. In addition to having such high stressors in your life, you now have this pressure to be the best parent possible and to co-regulate with your children and to be gentle and conscious. And I'll tell you, it is creating more stress because a lot of those tools in isolation aren't actually going to set you up to have more ease and cooperation in your family. And that really needs to be said. Okay? So I'm going to go into my top tools now for high stress parenting. Okay? The thing that you want to look at first and foremost is how you're holding your life and the conversations that you're having with yourself. Because if you think about I want you to, just for a moment, if it feels okay to do so, think of all the stressors you have in your life right now. Think of all the demands on you. And I want you to picture now that, get a clear picture of all the demands and all the stress on you. And now I want you to picture that you're in a cartoon of your life, right? There's a little series about your life, right? And all the stressors, all the daily challenges you face, that's happening. Now I want you to picture in this cartoon, a crane comes in, takes you out of your life. And now I want you to picture someone you really love, like a fellow parent, a friend, a family member, someone who's just easy for you to support. And I want you to picture that the crane comes in from the other side now, and where you used to be in your life is this person that you love. Someone who's easy to support, someone who's easy to give encouragement to. Now they are in your life. They are living all the stress, all the demands. What words of encouragement do you have for this person dealing with all these stressors, all these demands? What advice would you have for them? What compassion and empathy would you show them? What would you recommend them to do? And often parents will say, wow, like this is really hard. Go easy on yourself. You might normalize that person's challenge. Listen, you're not alone in this. So many parents are working on this right now, right? It's okay to give yourself grace. It's okay to make your life easier. What can you do for yourself? What are your needs right now, right? So picture this someone who you love and is so easy to support is now living your life of stress and challenges and demands. And what words of encouragement, what support, what recommendations, what advice do you have for them? What empathy can you offer them? Now the crane is going to come back in and going to pull them out of your life, and you're going to come back in. Now, can you open up to that support that you just gave that person you love? Can you receive it for yourself? And some people will say, yes, like I can receive that. And some people will just say, well, now that I'm back into it, like I've got blocks receiving my own compassion and support and encouragement. And just know that like you're not alone in that either. These are blocks to self-compassion. That will be blocks to self-compassion. We'll do a live on that another day. Okay, but see if you can receive one of those statements to either normalize your challenges, to let you know, to give yourself grace that it is hard what you're dealing with. Any like action steps or advice or words of wisdom that came up, and just receive one of that. Okay, this is a tool called Best Friend Talk. talk, and it was developed by Dr. Kristen Neff from the Self-Acceptance Project. Okay, so that would be the first thing I would say. Really work on the conversations that you're having with yourself, because what's happening is we're having all this stress today. Okay, so the stress is here, negatively impacting your parenting. And then what happens is parents are having self-judgment, self-criticism, blame, shame layered on top of it. And this is one of the things I see. If you feel like you identify with being a conscious parent, with trying to be a conscious parent, this is the top challenge that I see conscious parents having, is that we're shaming, guilting, shoulding, woulding, self-criticism, self-doubt, blame, and we're blaming and shaming all of our challenges. And remember, it's not you. It's not a character flaw. This is about the stress and the unmet basic needs in your life that are the problem. So those of you who are familiar with growth mindset and the work of Dr. Carol Dweck, what she says is the relationship we have with ourselves profoundly impacts our life. And so my goal is to make that relationship with yourself through the stress. The stress is still going to be there. There's still major things that need to change in our society and our world to support families, to support human rights. And I don't want to see you shaming and blaming yourself because of what's wrong in our world, because of the stress levels in your life. What happens is when we're parenting, we've got the high stress, we've got the shame and the blame, the self-judgment, the self-criticism. It caps our learning potential and it locks us into the very cycle that we're trying to change, okay? So that's my number one tool for high stress parenting, is how can we work on the conversations that you're having with yourself so they're coming from a place of encouragement, of support, of believing in your inherent goodness, of naming the problems and the stress that's wrong in your life and with the world, naming that as the problem and putting the onus and the burden on those problems, not taking personal responsibility for the way that you're impacted by your stress, in that you're not blaming and shaming yourself, right? And when we're in that place where we're parenting, we've got all the stressors, but we can be in that place of unconditional love and acceptance, of belief in ourselves, of encouragement, of our empowerment, then we have access to the higher parts of our brain, and we can work on accessing some of the strengths in the challenge, the tools of transformation, the tools of support, and really connect you with ongoing learning and growth alongside your children, which is what one of the things that parenting is really about. Okay, so what is your best friend talk? What can you offer yourself, and what can you remind yourself throughout the day? And what I say is, don't wait until you're stressed to try to access this best friend talk. You won't be able to, right? Because your learning brain is offline. You gotta practice this talk in calm and connected moments. You're at the sink doing the dishes, you're in the shower, you're driving, and you're giving yourself your best friend talk. And do you know what my best friend talk was? For a long time, years, decade maybe? It's okay. It's all okay. It's all okay. Okay. Number 2, support. So think of your life like a scale. When we go back to that basic definition of support as there's more demands on you than incoming support. Think of your life like a scale, and you've got the stressors. And most likely those stressors are weighing heavy. Then the other scale that offsets the stress is support. What are internal resources and external resources that you can access? And if it's helpful, what I recommend doing right now is just take a moment. What are all like the positive things you have access to in your life? You know, from community, a friend, a family member. You might belong to an organization, a religious or spiritual group. What are all, you might do home movement practices. You might dance. You might do art. You might spend time with the trees. Whatever it is for you, just take a moment. What are all the areas of support that you have in your life? Because most likely you have things, because stress is so high, it's hard to remember the areas of support that we do have. And it's that incoming support that is part of the antidote for the stress. And I don't want to be too much on the individual level, right? To say that, oh, if we just had access all the support in our lives that our parenting would change. Yeah, some of that is true. And again, there's also systemic inequities and injustices in our world that are at the root of the high stress parenting, right? Within that, one of the antidotes for stress is support. Okay, so really thinking about what's the support that you have. And then what we want of the last area is the science and the art of parenting today. We want to specifically have tools that affirm both. For the science of parenting, we are shifting out of a behaviorist approach to parenting rooted in consequences and rewards. And we're shifting into a brain-based model that where our top discipline, our top teaching tools with our kids is the positive relationship connection we have with them and the tools of empowerment. And that is the skill set in my Happy Home coaching. The science, the methodology that I've developed that's based on positive discipline and conscious discipline and interpersonal neurobiology that's studied in conflict transformation. And I bring all that in my background in education. But even more than that, I bring the experience of working with parents for the last 12 years, thousands of parents and early childhood educators. You all have developed this technology and this science of parenting that is Happy Home. And there's also the art form of parenting. There's how parenting is the magic of you in your highest and best state when you're connected to your strengths and your gifts and your intuition and you have the optimal support in your life. When there's this unique, just again, magic and art of who your child is, their unique gifts and strengths and temperaments and what they need to thrive, and how what they need is probably activating what you also need to heal your own childhood experiences. And that's the art form of parenting. That's the magic. That's the sparkle. That's really the holy aspect of parenting today. And so that's what my goal is for all of you, to have access to the science and the technology that we're developing together in a way that is the art form of your life, of your strengths and gifts, of that divine purpose that your child has on this planet, and how their purpose and their needs and their challenges are activating that healing within you. Okay, so that's what Happy Home is all about. So please don't struggle, and that's the main thing. I want to go through my offerings, and then I'm going to stay on a little bit and just to share a little bit about my parenting journey with high stress parenting. Okay, so there's no reason, I always say, alone we struggle, together we can do this. And I have everything from free support to families to $99 offerings and $200 class that's coming up to my premium coaching experience. So let's go ahead and go through those. You can always go through my Happy Home Week. It is free. I used to offer it live. Now it's self-paced short videos. If you go to meganbarella.com and if you type, when you're at meganbarella.com and you go to I'm just going to put it, it's just my name, but I'll just put my website in the chat, right? And then when you go to masterclass on my website, that's where you can sign up for the Happy Home Week. And what I love about the Happy Home Week is that it's self-paced. You can do it while you're doing stuff around the house or you're in the car driving. It's just these short videos. They're like 10 minutes. And then included in it, this is my community service program for families. So you get to schedule a free 30-minute session. We'll take those Happy Home Week tools and we'll apply them to your parenting and start you on your happy home journey. This is no cost. It's totally free. And I will say a lot of parents come to the Happy Home Week and they haven't watched the videos. That's okay. I'll do a recap. Just come as you are. The other free service I have right now is my Upgrade Our Parenting 2025 guide. And I've been talking a little bit about that. I took the 6 key messages that I always share with my clients and I put them into our Upgrade Our Parenting 2025 guide. And this guide was developed since January with this administration. And what does it mean? Because the administration right now, there is a parenting paradigm connected to it. And that's why it's so important to follow the decolonized parenting experts. But what's going on in our world is white supremacy in action. And guess what? Our parenting practices, fear-based parenting, rooted in shame and blame, in discipline as a tool of oppression, that is an agent of white supremacy. And so what I did is I took the 6 key messages, the 6 key upgrades to our parenting for this year, and I put them in a simple guide. And so when you're on my page, meganbrella.com, a pop-up will come up. You can enter your name and email. You'll get the guide. And then connected to that guide, and I'll share the links when I hop off, is a $99 coaching session. When I develop something new or I have a workshop I'm sharing, I always do a $99 coaching session offer. This is a way, one, for parents to just sample happy home coaching and what it's like to work with me. And two, it's a way for parents to get support at a lower price point that's more accessible to families. So go ahead, sign up for Upgrade Our Parenting 2025, and then you're welcome to schedule your $99 coaching session. In addition, I'm really excited. Starting the week of March 31st, I'm going to run a parenting class, a 4-week parenting class. So I'm going to take you through the Happy Home Coaching methodology, half of it, right? Because Happy Home Coaching, I have 8 modules, and we're going to do the first 4 in a Happy Home class. It's going to be virtual. Right now, if you sign up, you're going to be able to chime in on the day and times that we meet. But we're going to meet once a week for 4 weeks for 1 hour to go through the Happy Home Coaching methodology. And then usually with classes, like I'll stay on an extra 15 minutes after the class to get your questions answered. This is a great way to access the Happy Home methodology without having to be one of my premium clients, okay? And then lastly, I do offer Happy Home Coaching. It is a 12-week intensive intervention for your family that combines education. You get access to the Happy Home Coaching methodology in my self-paced program. You watch the short videos. We meet once a week on Zoom to bring the tools alive for your family. But that's not what the game changer is for families. What I find the game changer is for you to have access to me and real-time support. So I will set us up either on Voxer, Facebook Messenger, or WhatsApp. And as you're going through the real life challenges in your family, it's after school, it's bedtime, it's the morning, it's my kids are dysregulated, I'm dysregulated, this is going on. you're messaging me and we're working through it. I'm offering you my compassion and support, and we're focusing on solutions to get through that moment. And I'll tell you, this is the game changer. And I don't really know anyone else in the parenting coaching space who has developed this. But I have developed, this is the system, because it's not only the methodology you get access to, it's the system of support that I've dialed in. And so please, the way to get learn more about Happy Home Coaching for your family, send me a message, or you can just go ahead and set up a complimentary consultation. And I do want to meet with you, especially if we haven't worked together before. You know, some of you, I've known you for a long time, like, you know, in the virtual space, you've been following me, and then we can probably go back and forth over Messenger. But if you're new to the community, I want to meet with you. And why is that? Because I do have a parent satisfaction guarantee for my programs that you'll be satisfied with the results in your family. And so I'm only gonna enroll people who I know can get those results, and that I'm a good person to be your guide. It's really important that you feel that. Okay, so listen, stress is the problem, not you and your children. We're in the highest stress levels of parenting today. Remember that your response to stress is a physiological response. It's not a character flaw. And that having incoming support to offset the stress is one of the most important things in parenting. And that parenting is both science and art. And that's what Happy Home Coaching provides. So a little bit, as I wrap up, I'll share a little bit about my story and my parenting journey. So my background is in teaching, and I've worked with kids from the preschool to the high school years. After my son was born, he's 16 now, he was 18 months old, and I swear his little baby spirit whispered in my ear, if you really want to serve children, help their parents. And then my sister was like, why don't you become certified in positive discipline? Because our midwives, you might know Catherine and Nora, those of you at Gentle Beginning, those of you who might be old school Portland people, they really shared a lot of positive discipline with all of us and recommended those books. So I became certified in positive discipline, and I started to teach community-based classes. This was pre-pandemic, and then I went through a period of super high life stress. I separated from my son's father. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. Literally that same week, I felt like I was in a movie. I remember being at my sister's, and we were like, what? Okay, so we found out our mom has cancer, and then our dad died. And our dad just had a lot of mental health challenges, drug problems, was abusive. I wasn't in touch with him. And so he passed away. The same week we found out my mom had cancer. We're like, what? Then my mom, she passes away 9 months later. And I moved back to New York with, my 5-year-old son at the time. It was very, very stressful. So during that time, it was 18 months, and I lost all of my attachment figures. And I call it my rebirth by fire time. During that time, I went from feeling like, gosh, I'm like parent of the year here with my positive discipline. I literally, during that time I had stress, I forgot every positive discipline tool I knew. People would ask, what is positive discipline? I'm like, I don't know. My son, he was just, a high energy kid. He had developmentally appropriate behavior. And I was responding with anger and aggression. And guess what? He modeled that back to me, and he was having a lot of anger and aggression. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, who is going to save me from this? Like, who? And then it was like, it's just me. It's just like, and then the message was clear, like, you're the one. You're going to save yourself. You're going to get yourself out of this. And it's really from that time of my own high stress and also I should say, part of the high stress that I'm always dealing with is just the parenting is healing journey and inheriting negative intergenerational cycles on my family line, right? And being the change maker, and then teaching other people how to, what are the tools to heal these negative parasites that we've inherited on our family line. So that's always the backdrop of my parenting, which has its own stressors. But then this time of acute stress, I was like, whoa. So that's when I developed this like science and technology of high stress parenting. Okay. And it transformed the cycles with my son. And I was like, okay, now it's time to teach this. And then I took what I had used for my own high stress parenting and I took it out to the community. And you all then helped fine tune it and formulate it. And then the pandemic happened. And guess what was the technology that we really needed? Was the happy home coaching that was formulated for high stress parenting. And then in the pandemic, I was helping parents function at school, at home, and working, and all the things. And that's when I really started to work exclusively with neurodiverse kids and helping parents parent neurodiverse kids in a neurotypical world. And for me, when I'm working with my parents of neurodiverse kids or parents who are neurodiverse themselves, you are my collaborators because you are helping shift us out of fear-based parenting, because that does not work for neurodiverse kids. And using consequences and rewards for neurodiverse kids is inhumane, in my humble opinion. So it's really neurodiverse kids and parents are my co-creators in how we can parent from positive relationship, from empowerment, from a place of understanding that behavior does not mean we're good or bad. It's about communication of needs. And now, most recently, I'm working with more divorcing and separating families, which we know the stress of that. So a lot of my journey has been around high stress parenting. And as we wrap up today, the note that I want to leave you on is that within our challenges, within the ways we respond to stress, are also our core strengths as people. Also is our wisdom. Also is our gifts. Also is our intuition. And I wish we weren't parenting with such high stress today. I wish what was going on in the world wasn't going on. And I believe in my heart of hearts, and I know what I've learned from my own journey, what you all have taught me, is within that stress are your strengths. What makes you uniquely you and your divine purpose. And our job is to go in there. And this is a lot of what I do in Happy Home Coaching, is to write the challenge, right? To find and reclaim your strength within the stress and challenges of your life, while also naming that a lot of the stress is coming from societal and systemic inequities and injustices, and to remind you to follow the decolonized parenting experts. Okay, I'm losing my voice. I gotta go drink some water, but hey, what are you high stress parenting, your best friend talk, bringing in more support, really doing a support data check on what's all the support that I have possibly to access, and then how can I bring that into my daily life. And then if I can be here for you with Happy Home Coaching, for the science and the art form of parenting, then I'm here for you, and reach out. Remember, I've got the free Happy Home Week, the free Upgrade Your Parenting Guide, the $99 Upgrade Our Parenting Session. I've got the $199 class starting March 31st, and then Happy Home Premium Coaching, which is a 12-week intervention for $4,500. Okay, be good to yourselves, access your support, and know that I'm here for you. And I will see you next week. Next week, I'm trying to do these Monday lives, but Monday I'm not available next week, so I'll probably be live on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. Okay, I'll see you again soon.